This installation is based on Frida Kahlo. Well, everybody knows who Frida Kahlo is already compared to Derek Jarman and Gertrude Jekyll. Geraldine, this is based on one of her paintings, right? Can you tell us about this image?
The two Fridas. Yeah, she's known for mostly for her self portraits. Yeah, so I chose Frida for this show not because I like her garden, because it's not a garden that is really filled with plants. There are more sculptures than plants in her garden. But I like the way she used the plants, the animals in her garden, in her paintings. The two Fridas, I chose that painting because it's how Frida depicted herself, like always in pain, but also pleasure loving. It has a different interpretation, of course, but I chose this presenting Frida, two Fridas, because of he has a faceted character, very rich. So, and I think it's something that you can also play around.
I like how you decided to use fabric as a medium because Frida liked fabrics.
Yeah.
And please tell us about the process. I know it is hand sewn.
The fabric is silk organza, and it's painted, hand painted, and then hand sewn by my embroiderers that I always collaborate with for like fabric installations. For this project, Cherry Sula, Janet Sula worked with me.
Geraldine collaborates with her local community in many projects. And this one is so well done. If you go check the back, it's just as neat as the front and well sewn. That is important because it's translucent. So it's in a way, it's also like the layers of mulching that you made it in layers.
Yeah, it is. Also, I mean, it becomes very playful. It's very detailed, labor intensive, but it becomes very playful. Like when you look at it, it's swaying. And you can, what I like about this kind of installation is you can go around it. You can touch it. I mean, I don't prevent people from touching the fabrics. Even the other installations, I prefer that if people see the material, inspect the material, go around it. I mean, that's part of the work for me.
Actually, it's very nice to walk around, which I tried earlier. It's almost like being in a garden, within a garden, where there's something behind you, something in front of you. And then every time you turn to another, you see something new, something hidden maybe at the back of the garden.
Yeah, like getting lost.
For Frida, her garden was more like a backdrop or a stage rather than growing vegetables. In a way, that's how this is almost.
Because that's what made her paintings more complex. Otherwise, it's just about pain, suffering. If not for those background of plants and animals. So it gives, I think, they gave complexity to her paintings.
Are these plants depicted from
her garden? Actually, these are her plants.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
That's important actually because Frida chose her garden as a mestizo garden with Spanish and indigenous plants.
Some of these plants we have that here also because it's been introduced to us. Like the philodendrons.
Frida was very political, and having a garden with these kinds of plants is almost about national identity. So that's why, that's the significance of these mestizo plants?
For me, for us, it looks very exotic. How she depicted those plants, though they're really available to us. But the way she painted it, it's so different. She gave it a different character, especially the cactuses.
Yeah, I know you have a cactus garden in your own garden.
I have a neglected cactus garden. They're not meant to be taken care of. You water them when you remember to water them.
Okay. And do you also have animals in your garden?
We have 9 dogs, 2 cats, we have chickens, we have rabbits. So we sometimes eat the rabbits. People would find it strange because rabbit is supposed to be a pet. But what I learned from Robin Wall Kimmerer, there's a reciprocity thing. I don't feel very guilty about that because they multiply fast, and they also sometimes they have a tendency to be violent with each other, especially the males when they're fighting for the right to mate. And the thing with reciprocity is I always make sure that we plant vegetables that are their favorites, especially kale. So giving them some sort of good life, feeding them well. When they choose a rabbit to be slaughtered, I think they put a cloth, the boys. If the rabbit speaks, they put it back to the pen because they think the rabbit knows it's going to be slaughtered, so they put it back. So those who are very innocent doesn't make the sound that made it to our dining table. And then now I instruct them, when you chop the head off, bury it to to their favorite fruit trees like mango. So it's like giving it back. So it makes the tree fertile. It will give more fruits, and then the fruits will be given back to the rabbit. So it's like.
Okay, it's also again about the symbiotic relationship of the whole of nature, animals, humans, plants, and I think Frida was doing the same by painting a lot of animals. And she was talking about the relationship of animals with humans, symbols.
Yeah, it's very soothing to have these living things around you. Like for Frida, she's in constant pain. But I think having this garden, the sculptures, the elaborate dresses, it's having these animals. They're all distractions, and at the same time, I think they're giving something to her.
This series is based on Claude Monet, the most famous artist gardener. We are going to begin with the first painting that Geraldine made from this series. Geraldine, can you tell us about this painting focusing on poppies?
Before we talk about this particular painting, let me explain the process.
Okay.
When I was conceptualizing the paintings for the Monet part of the show, it was very daunting for me because he's a painter. He's known for his water lily paintings. Unlike the 3 other artists I chose for the show, Derek, Frida, and Gertrude, they're mostly installations. Gertrude is not really known as a painter. She's more known as a garden designer. But Monet was very famous for his water lily painting. So how can I do another painting? I mean, it shouldn't be like a Monet water lily painting again. So I haven't seen a painting of Monet, any water lily painting in person. So I just had to look at the books, study the color palettes, then read something about his life and listen to it while starting the painting. So it's like almost 2 weeks of doing nothing, thinking how to approach it without repeating what Monet had done. And at the same time, be able to learn something from his paintings and apply it on my painting, and then made it my painting.
First, the difference is the medium is not oil.
The medium I use is encaustic, and I also use colored encaustic, different palettes. Some of those colored encaustics can be found in the palettes of Monet. And then I use also pigment. You see Monet's painting, but just based on the illustrations in the books, and you get the detailed photos. It's actually very rich. It looks atmospheric, but when you zero in on the details, it's very rich with textures, with dabs of color, different color, and I think it's good at using palette. So that's why I think I decided to use different materials for this. You can see Monet's silhouette, but that's embroidered fabric, and then I put that on top of the encaustic painting, and then apply paint, so there's an imprint of the embroidery.
There also, if you go very closely, you will see Geraldine etched. Are those etchings?
Yeah, etching. So again, this is like a mulching. So there are layers and layers of encaustic and painting and etching. So it's the process starts with applying encaustic, several layers of encaustic, and then dry pigments, and then torching them to make it melt, blend together. And then when I'm satisfied with the background, I start the etching, the drawing first, and then the etching, and then I paint it. When it's done, it's very detailed work. It looks very finished. And then I'd apply another layer of layers of encaustic again, and pigment, so it changes. And some you still see some of the details, some are really buried, but it makes the painting again richer because of that process. Actually, there are very good paintings hidden, some are exposed. There's some like burying also mistakes, but that will also come out on the surface. I mean, whatever I put underneath, it also affects the surface. So you can't totally bury anything.
Now, from the technique, maybe we can move on to this subject of the red poppies.
So the title of this piece is Monet in the Land of Red Poppies. When Monet was painting his water lily paintings and his same time developing his garden, there was a war. If you're in that kind of situation, I was like thinking, if you're an artist, there's a war, what are you going to do? Are you going to keep on painting, or do you get yourself involved in a war? So it's like a dilemma. It's like, how can you continue painting your garden, developing your garden when there's a war? But Monet wasn't totally oblivious about it. I mean, he made efforts to help those affected, but doesn't show in his paintings. I mean, he's a painter, he's a gardener. So I think he was able to separate that two. But I think it also affected because his paintings are not very colorful, not very like vivid. He didn't use vivid colors. So I think that somehow it affected the colors he used, the atmosphere of his paintings.
Your technique of using pigments is very successful in making it appear almost like blood splatters. Is
Yeah, it looks like a blood splattered painting. I was very much into that dialogue of like how your surroundings affect you as an artist, especially as a painter. I mean, that's why I think I made this piece. Although I think none of Monet's painting showed violence. But this one, I think it's a bit violent. Especially, I think the process is also, I guess, very violent because of the act of torching it, making it melt.
So I was talking about how tulip mania at that time is very similar to the plantita phenomenon these days. Why did you choose the tulips?
Tulips because it's a really famous flower because at that time, I don't know, it's like 16th century. I'm not sure about that. I'm not really good at history, but there was a boom of of different kinds of tulips. It's the people's obsession with the exotic, with something different. I mean, you have a different plant which is the most expensive. So Monet also has that obsession. He spends a fortune buying plants, exotic plants, exotic flowers, and I think it's something that still happens today. I mean, this obsession with having the most expensive plant, and it's like, okay, I'm happy I have the most expensive plant right now, and then another variety will be out in the market. Okay, I'm no longer happy. I need to buy that one. So it's continuous. It's still happening, but it bankrupted a lot of people. The tulips. I mean, some spend like the equivalent of a house and lot
To buy
for
it.
a bulb tulip.
That's another layer to Geraldine's paintings, is that there's that economic reason behind the plants, and that seems to last. I mean, in centuries, it's human that they treat it almost like collection.
Collection and also a commodity.
Commodity.
Yeah, I think that's what I don't like commodifying the plants too much.
So I noticed in this specific painting that you have a new technique. It looks like paper applique.
I'm trying to do something else with encaustic, like collaging it. Some works, some didn't, so I had to remove some of the papers, but I think I learned something else, like maybe in the next series I can make it more sculptural by taking out the paper, and then you'd see a silhouette, which is let's see. But this is, I think, a very whimsical painting.
Yeah, up close the inks now look like tie-dye almost.
Because of the pigment. When you put in the pigment and then you torch it, kind of spreads. So you don't want to put too much. So it's like every painting in the Monet series is not well planned because of that process. It's a tricky process because you melt the wax. How can you control where it goes? How can you control the pigment? I mean, you can control it by maybe being very obsessive about it. But I want surprises also. That's why I let accidents happen, because I know I'm going to discover something if I do that. So actually, before this painting, there was a failure. It's like I already applied several layers of encaustic, and it's not working for me. I mean, I couldn't get the atmosphere I like, and I have to torch the entire painting to make all the wax fall, and then start again. But the mistake I made before this painting, you wouldn't be able to see it, but actually it affected the final outcome.
Geraldine, please tell us about the water lily subject.
Okay, water lily. I think it's the most famous paintings of Monet, the water lily series. I wish I had seen at least one. I don't know how, if I had seen a water lily painting, I don't really know how it would have affected these paintings or changed these paintings for the better or the worse. So maybe it's good that I haven't seen one, but I wish I'd seen one. So okay. And water lily, again, judging from the illustrations, it looks very calm. Those water lily paintings, but this water lily painting is far from being calm. Actually, it's turbulent, and I guess it's part of my character. The kind of this turbulence. I mean, I'm not into really calm paintings. I don't think I can do that. I don't know. It's like when I paint, it's not a very dimensional or just one feeling, one emotion you'll get.
It does look like it's murky, the darker parts. It isn't just a sparkling pond, but I think there is some reflection of the sky here. Or reflection.
Yeah, this is you can see a silhouette of Monet's like being reflected on the pond, and this silhouette it's made of embroidered fabric that has been collaged onto the canvas using encaustic, and I was like again playing with the foreground. It's a very weird composition. You wouldn't know that it's the. I mean, is this the sky or this the?
It's almost abstract.
Yeah.
Some parts, and if you look very closely at this painting, which I think people must see in person, every leaf has the details of the engraving, and every petal has lines of engraving.
Steph, you mentioned abstract. Because I think when Monet painted his garden, he's not really depicted. He didn't really depict the garden as it is. I mean, he's an impressionist. But I think most of all, it's like he's trying to paint an abstracted emotion that one gets when you're in a garden or when you're looking at a garden. So I tried to like apply that not the technique but the state of mind you should be in when you're painting a garden, or like if I'm Monet painting a garden. Of all the paintings in this series of Monet paintings that I painted, I think this one looks more like his water lily paintings. I think I wanted to do one painting that would actually look like a Monet painting. And there are no drawings. These are debris from cleaning my painting trays. I've been keeping them and hoping to use them one day. And yeah, I found the use for this because some of his paintings actually, when he has a problem with his eyesight, so there are no more details, just like blobs of paint. So that's what I tried to achieve in this. Unlike with the other paintings, I mean, you can see lots of details. This, I just use whatever I have in my studio.
Unlike the others, this painting has many drips. Can you tell us about this technique?
This area, upper half of the painting, I did some ink transfer. I transferred an image, and then it's a very complicated technique. I mean, you transfer a cutout image, you made it stick to the encaustic. I use a heat gun to make it stick further, rub it, and then after that process, I sanded it, the image, to make the paper a bit fuzzy, and then I put water in it to soak the paper, and then rub it again to take out the white parts of the paper, and then you'd see a very thin film of the image, and then I would paint on it, and then after that, apply wax again, an encaustic, so mulching again.
It's so laborious.
So you do that technique over for several layers, and then I would torch it to melt the entire thing. So some that were hidden would be exposed, drip together with the encaustic. It can create bubbles. Because there's this painting of Monet with a pond, and then you'd see reflection of the wisteria and other foliage as a reflection on the pond. So I wanted to create that atmospheres like this entire garden, which is very complex. I mean, there's reflection, there's so many things happening, but he was able to compress it in one image, and he was able to successfully connect everything.
This is one of two paintings based on the garden of Geraldine herself. Geraldine, why is this titled The Happiness Project? And can you tell us a little bit about your garden and the plants in your garden?
When I made this painting, okay, this is the time of the lockdown, quarantine. And I think a lot of people turn into their area, however small it is. I mean, they cannot go out, so they explored ways of making themselves happy. They turned back also to nature. So they started buying plants. There's a craze for having the most expensive plant, but not necessarily the most beautiful. So it's like, okay, let's take this project. Painting those famous plants right now. I cannot buy them myself because I find them too expensive. It's too crazy, the prices of those plants. Maybe those that I can afford, maybe I will. So it's like, just paint it. Paint it. Maybe eventually I'll be able to get some of these plants, but it's not how you develop the garden. It's not about having the most expensive plant. When you make your garden, it's not about having the most expensive plant, the most beautiful one. It has to complement with each other. So, but title is Happiness Project. It's not really about having a beautiful garden, this happiness project, because it's actually very fleeting. That very expensive plant. After that, there's another expensive plant that will come into the market. It's happiness. It's not about that. I mean, having a garden can make you calm, but doesn't make you a very calm person. I mean, I'm not a very calm person. I have a big garden. Sometimes walking through it calms my nerves, makes me forget some problems I've been having or worries. This passion for plants or your life, it's sometimes it's connected, it's disconnected. So same with happiness. So it's like pursuing it but never really be able to reach it.
One of the essays was talking about how happiness is not about perfection, and in the garden, there are mosquitoes or weeds or a problem like the trees will fall, but the happiness is there because of the process. Every day you have a task and a goal related to the garden.
Yeah, because I know some people who would cultivate a garden, then something bad would happen, a typhoon would destroy it, and then they stop gardening because it's a futile process. But for me, it's like it's a chance. For me, I don't worry so much about that. I mean, typhoon destroying my garden, although we try to prevent that by pruning and all that. But for me, it's always a chance to start again. Finally, I've been wanting to change this area, and at least I don't feel guilty by taking them out. So the typhoon did it for me. So it's like same with life, I guess.
Opportunities.
Those are opportunities to change again, and
Geraldine, please tell us about this version of the Happiness Project.
So this is a happiness project, Search for the Ghost. Actually, this one is a Florida ghost, this plant. But it's about searching for variegated plants. I mean, with more of a white coloring. And also unachievable because they're so expensive. So I think it will remain as a ghost for me. And anyway, so something happened in my garden. The area surrounding my house, it was really covered in plants already. It's actually like a house of Sleeping Beauty. I mean, vines have reached the second floor. It's really very crazy before the waterproofing happened. So we had to pull out the plants, prune the tree. So it's in ruins. So I decided, it's a chance to develop the garden. Maybe create something new or have a different plants. So I said, I'm going to devote a section of this to the dark foliage plants, black plants, and then a section to mostly white plants or with plants with white foliage.
Thank you for your time, Geraldine.
Thank you, Steph, for all those difficult questions.
Please come and see this exhibition running from July 13 to August 17 at Art Informal Makati. It's a must-see in person. 5 Gardens by Geraldine Javier.